Hi, and welcome to What's Important to You with me, James Dean. On the show, I will be talking to people from all walks of life and asking them the question, what's important to you? Because I believe once we understand what's important, then we can build the life that we truly want to live. I hope you are inspired by the guests that I talk to and answer that question for yourself and build the life that you truly want. You can support the show by clicking on the subscribe button, sharing your favorite episode, or leaving your comments. Thanks for watching. Today's guest is a plus-size mummy with little legs, who started a fitness journey in January 2018. At that time, she could never have imagined where it would lead. Her dream was to run the London Marathon for a charity close to her heart, and the finish line was meant to be the end of the story, but it was just the beginning. Her journey continues, but her mindset has changed from what if I fail to embracing every opportunity, feeling the fear and doing it anyway. From marathon runner to open water swimmer, fitness and the gym have become her happy place. Today, we find out what's important to Kez Aldridge. Hi, Kez. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Hi.
Really looking forward to chatting to you this morning. So we're going to dive straight in. And as with the first question, which as always is, Kez, what's important to you?
Oh, wow. What a massive question that is. And it's one where I think the answer has changed significantly over the last 4 to 5 years. If you'd spoke to the old Kez, she would have said career and family. And that was my life. And then I embarked on this journey. And I thought it was going to be quite a small journey. And no, it's just grown and grown and grown. And since then, I think that what is the most important thing to me, again, family is my priority. It really is. But it's about me being the fittest and the happiest version of Kez that I can be, so that I can be the best mum, the best wife, but be happy in my own skin. And I think that's the massive thing. I think when I started this journey, in a way I had everything I wanted. I had the career I wanted, I had the son, I had the best husband I could have, but I was really unhappy. I was really, really overweight, really not happy with myself, didn't really like myself. And so this journey, which I thought was one thing, has exploded into something completely different, and it's taken me to places and things that I never thought possible. It's brought these amazing people into my world. And I think that, the most important thing is just that I want to be my authentic self, and I just want to always try to be the best version of myself. And I think part of that is just every day I try to be better than yesterday.
I love it.
So that's really in a nutshell.
Yeah.
Try and answer such a big question.
I know, absolutely. No, I love it. And no, it's fantastic, because what you just said there is something that I come across so much, and encapsulates so many people. And obviously for everyone who's listening, obviously who wouldn't know obviously your story. So when you say this journey, we're going to go to the before bit and maybe in a little bit, but what was the sort of, when you said this journey over the last 4 or 5 years, what has been, or what has that journey been about?
So I think I woke up New Year's Day in 2018, like a lot of people, probably hungover, really not feeling good about myself. As I say, I had everything that I wanted really, but I just didn't feel great. It was really, really overweight. I've always swum, and I loved Zumba, so I did do exercise, but I was in a very different place to where I am now. And it just so happened that particular day, I was with some of my friends. We were hungover. We were talking about New Year's resolutions. Now, I never make New Year's resolutions, because I break them within 20 minutes. So I was like, I'm not going to make a New Year's resolution. What I'm going to do is I'm going to make a promise to myself.
Okay.
So I started thinking about these promises. What could I promise? And my friend was like, oh, do you know what? I really want to run Cardiff Half Marathon. And I was like, God, to me, running was completely alien, but I'd always secretly wanted to do Race for Life. I always wanted to do Race for Life, never thought that I could. Now, around the same time, there was some voodoo magic going on because I was scrolling through Facebook looking at New Year's Day messages and came across this advert for a plus size ladies running club in Cardiff. The next thing I know, I've sent a message and I'm like, I'm going to join that. And so I started this journey thinking I wanted to run Race for Life.
Yeah.
I couldn't run for a bus when I started. I had no idea what I was doing. So I started with this running club, and I liked the feeling afterwards. I can't say I liked the feeling when I was running, but I liked the feeling afterwards. I liked the endorphins. I liked the natural high that I was getting. We did Race for Life, and that was just amazing. And then the other girls were like, oh, I'm not going to do any more running. And I was like, oh, I want to do more running. I want to do more running. Around the same time, my friend was going to be running London Marathon 2018, the hottest marathon.
Yeah.
And she was sending me all these messages going, oh my God, you'd love this. The expo, it's amazing. The atmosphere, it's really good. You've got to do it. And I was like, yeah, I'm going to do it. And so I applied for a charity place, for a charity really close to my heart, which was the Miscarriage Association. Not thinking for 1 second I was going to be offered a place. And I was for 2018. And then it dawned on me, what was I going to do? And I didn't have a Scooby-Doo. I'll be completely honest. I didn't have a Scooby-Doo of how you train to run for a marathon. To me, you just increased your running distance, which is what I did. Okay. But I'm plus size. I've got little legs. Didn't really know what I was doing, but I trained hard in my way. And I raised loads of money for this charity. I went to London, did the marathon, didn't get the experience that I wanted, and other people didn't either. We were back of the pack runners. It didn't go well. That should have been the end of the story.
Yeah.
But crossing the finish line was actually the start of the story.
Yeah.
And my story went viral. And I was in this whirlwind of a situation, completely alien to me, carried on running. And then at Cardiff 10K for September after the marathon, I was doing my thing, back of the pack runner. I'd put on some more weight after I'd lost weight for the marathon, wasn't feeling great about myself, at the back, doing my thing. Saw this guy ahead of me who was over 6 foot, who was orange. And I was like, I could see that he was talking to people. I was like, who is he? He looked like he loves himself. Well, was it a chance meeting? Was it fate? But I met this guy. We started talking about my reason for running. And it turned out that he was a personal trainer and gym owner.
Okay.
And I was like, you never get me in a gym? He's like, why? And I went, because gym's full of beautiful people. Look at me. He made me an offer that I couldn't refuse. And the rest there really is history. I met him. I went and visited his gym, something which really, really scared me. Talk about completely out of your comfort zone. Really, really scared me. Like, I cried. I was in the car park crying on the phone to my husband. I cannot walk into this place. But it was so welcoming, and I met with him. He made me this offer, and suddenly everything changed. And then I found a love of exercise, of the gym, of the community that the gym provides you. I then got a place for London as like an apology place because of what happened in 2019. And so the gym that I was with said that they would sponsor me to do that marathon.
Wow.
And I've worked really hard since. I found out how you should train for a marathon. And I've worked really hard with my trainer, Richard, around mindset, around being the best version of me, around actually loving myself. And that's the huge journey, really. That's what 100%. This is about, is that I've gone from hating myself, from hating having, and I still don't like photos being taken, but from embracing those, about being the role model I want to be for my son, about being fit, about being healthy, about, instead of those negative coping mechanisms when I've got a stressful day at work of, oh, I'm going to have a bottle of wine, or I'm going to have a bar of chocolate, I go to the gym, I lift weights. And it's taken me into this So that's part of the journey, but it's just
Yeah.
taking me into this massive just whirlwind of meeting other people. I met this charity in Cardiff who I knew about anyway, but something that I'm really passionate about because they're a mental health charity, and I
Yeah.
lost my mum when I was 17 to suicide.
Okay.
It's always been a massive thing for me.
Yeah.
And last year was the 25th anniversary, and I decided enough was enough. I had to rewrite the narrative. I
Yeah.
had to stop self-destruction on the anniversary of her death, and I had to celebrate her life. And so with this charity and with the members of the gym, I embarked on this whole massive challenge. And I then stood up and done public speaking, told my story, abseiled,
Love it.
and just completely changed.
Yeah.
If you would have said to me 5 years ago that I would have done any of this stuff, I would have
Yeah.
said, you're stupid, you're bonkers.
Yeah.
I'm only ever going to do one marathon, and then that is it. And I've now done 5, and
Love
I'm
it.
doing my 6th in 4 weeks.
Nice. Where's this one coming up?
New York.
New York. Oh my God, that is amazing. That's still on the bucket list for myself. I mean, so much of what you said there is so much of it resonates with myself, and in some ways, it kind of similar in a sense of my sort of movement into running as well. Similar story in some ways, but and and I think because similar, like my sort of, just to share a little bit my background for running. So I started in sort of around 2012ish when I started to sort of, I wanted to similar thing. Wanted to get weight. I was 6 months from getting married. My now wife at the time, we were both, we want to look good on the wedding day. Very much that was the sort of focus and stuff. I'd done sports and stuff a lot when I was younger, but did nothing in my 20s. And then same thing, I'll start running because I didn't want to do team sports again. Did it all wrong. Exactly the same thing as you. Got injured very soon because I was trying to do too much, too soon, too fast, all the rest of it. So I kind of did other stuff, classes and things like that to get a bit of strength going. And then my same thing was like, I'll just get into the running to do a one marathon. My first one was Dublin in 2013. And similar experience. It's like it went well. I finished in it, but I got injured just 6 weeks before. I had an issue with my knee and stuff. So I got the finish, but it wasn't the sort of ta-da euphoria moment. You know what I mean? So you kind of, I don't know about you, but I almost felt sort of robbed after doing all of that work. And I was like, well, this can't be it. That was my sort of perspective. So, but the thing that really resonated with me when you were sharing your story was the realization. There was a point, and I can't necessarily pick it out, but the realization that it was the running and the physical exercise part of it was just a vehicle for me changing my head, my heart, everything else. So it was an important vehicle, but that was the vehicle for change. That's the way I saw it.
Absolutely. And I would never have known that in the beginning.
Yeah.
As I say, I would never have known. And I just think that it started something. And that's like when I said to you about, was it fate? Was it chance that I got injured? I'm a firm believer that everything happens for a reason. At the time when I had that experience in London, I was devastated. And I couldn't see the reason. And I was like, why has this happened to me? I have trained, I have done all of this work, I've trained my way. And obviously now I know I trained wrong. Okay.
Yeah.
But I didn't know that at the time. And I was like, all I wanted to do was go out there and raise money for this charity, raise awareness for this charity to honor the babies that me and my husband had lost. That's all I wanted. And then suddenly I was like, I had the London Marathon experience. I was supposed to have that day because look what's happened to me since.
Yes.
And when I went back in 2021 in so much better shape, I took over an hour and a half off of my marathon time.
Yeah.
I ran the marathon. I got the London Marathon experience, but the community of runners, I had people that were saying, if it wasn't just you, it was other people at the back of the pack. But if it wasn't for you guys, I wouldn't be here today. And I can't explain how that feels. You feel it,
Yeah.
you feel a deep sense of responsibility to other people, but also that, like, oh my God, I've done something which has made a change for others as well.
Mm.
So I think, you know, there's all of that which has happened. But I think the biggest thing, like you say, is running is being that vehicle that it brought all these people into my life, which has absolutely changed,
Mm.
fundamentally changed who I am.
Yeah.
Um, you know, I spoke to you about a little bit about my mum.
Yeah.
So I I grew up in my mum and dad are divorced. I grew up in a single parent family. I saw my dad remarried, and I saw him regularly, but I lived with my mum. And my mum was very unwell with
Mm.
bipolar. I lived through that and it was horrible. And I wouldn't wish bipolar on anybody. It's horrible. Um, but I learned a lot from my mum. My mum did everything she could to be the best mum she could be for me. You know, she lived her life through me. And then I got to the point when I was 15 that I couldn't live with her anymore because her illness was so bad. And so I lived with my dad for a bit. That didn't work out. And then I went and lived with my grandparents, who then officially became my foster parents.
Mm.
But I always threw myself into my schoolwork. That was my savior. And I remember my
Mm.
nan saying to me one day, why are you doing all this work? And I'm like, because it's got to be done. If I
Yeah.
want to get where I want to go, I've got to do it. And I think that's always stuck with me.
Yeah.
I've always done everything, and I've done things probably the hard way round, but I've done them to get where I've wanted to go. Um,
Mm.
and then, you know, when my mum died, um, it was horrific.
Mm.
So, I'd lived by the sea and swimming was a massive, massive part of my life. And then one day my mum walked into the sea and never came out.
Gosh.
And so for a long time I couldn't swim. For a long
Yeah.
time I could be who I was. And then that coincided, that was in the June, and in the September I was going to university.
Wow.
Moving from a small seaside town in Dorset to the big smoke of Cardiff.
Yeah.
You know, so I was going through all these changes and I couldn't sleep. And I went to the doctor and said, you know, this had happened to my mum. Really, the reason why I couldn't sleep was because I was a very small fish in a big city and I was scared and nervous. But they heard about bipolar and they were like, right, well, you either go to therapy or you go on antidepressants. And I was like, no, no. And so I've always fought, and I had to fight really hard to get back in the water. And I would self-destruct on the anniversary of my mum's death. I would, you know, at the time, I thought I
Mm.
was looking after myself. So, you know, I'd have a duvet day, I would eat crap food, I would eat chocolate, and I
Yeah.
thought, you know, I was looking after myself and being kind to myself. Really, I wasn't. I was being really unkind to myself, but I didn't know
Mm.
that for many, many years. And then I obviously, through this journey, I met Big Moose, this mental health charity, and started doing some fundraising for them. And then I was like, right, it's the 25th anniversary. I'm going to do Day for Dina. So my mum was called Medina. We called her Dina. And on the anniversary, 25 years, I was like, I've got to rewrite the narrative. I've got to stop this. So I was like, I'm going to do Day for Dina. So I roped in some of the guys from the gym. Everyone says to me now, Kez, I'm not hanging around you because we do crazy things when we hang around with you. But I roped some guys in the gym. We went to, I go to this morning swimming in Penarth called Dawnstalkers. So we went there for sunrise. So we went in the sea for sunrise. We then went and walked at Pen y Fan, which is this mountain in South Wales. We then went back to the gym. I can't ride a bike, but I was determined I was going to do, my mum's favourite number was 3. So I was determined I was going to do 3 events that day.
Yeah.
The sunrise dip, we did the walk up Pen y Fan. And then I decided I was going to get on a spin bike and do 25k.
Oh.
And I had, yeah, see, you're laughing.
Oh
It's
my
crazy,
God.
isn't it? It's
On a
crazy.
spin bike. On a
For me,
spin
with little
bike.
legs, who can't really
That's
hardly
hard going.
pedals. But I had some amazing people from the gym around me who said, we'll do it with you.
Ah, it's
And we
fair
had
play.
this music on and I was crying and I had someone who just touched my hand and went, I've got you, you can do this. And we did it.
That's amazing. Because
And
that's
And from there, I was like, anything's possible.
Yeah, 100%.
You know. So this year I was like, well, it's got to be bigger. Go big or go home. So I spoke to Big Moose, and I was like, right, I want to do something. I want to do something. I want to talk about mental health. We don't talk about mental health enough. I
Yeah.
want to raise awareness. I want to honour my mum's memory. I want to do Day for Dina. What can we do? So we decided that I was going to walk an ultra along the Welsh coastal path.
Wow.
I had people met me along the way. Didn't quite go according to plan. I didn't get to do the whole distance just because the elevation along the Welsh coastal path.
Yeah.
But I managed to do. So I wanted to do the same amount of miles as my mum's age.
Yeah.
But I couldn't. But I did the same amount of kms as my mum's
Yeah.
age.
Yeah.
And I had people who came along the way, people who talked about their mental health journey.
Very good.
And then we finished the day by going for a dip in the sea in Penarth.
Nice.
And I was just like, and from there, I was like, so this is now what it's got to be about. It's not got to be that self-sabotaging. It's got to be about rewriting a narrative, about
Yes.
celebrating, about
Yeah.
taking every opportunity that comes my way.
Yeah.
You know, my husband, bless him, he's not surprised by anything that I suggest anymore. He's like, okay, I'm your support crew. You know, my son as well, who's, you know, he's 9, and he's my why. I always talk about, you got to remember your why. He's my why.
100%.
I want to be the best mum that I can be for him. I want him to see and that you can, and I want him I want, if anyone suggests something to him, I want his first thoughts to be, I can. And then how will I
figure it out? Yeah.
I don't want his first thoughts to be, I can't, because I've been there for so long. I didn't do so many things because I was scared, because I thought I can't. Whereas now,
yeah,
let's just do it.
Yeah. No, I love it. But I think this, I mean, so much, and I thank you so much for sharing so much of what you had, because I think it is so powerful. And you're right, like it's that thing of, because, and this is just from my perspective, because I'm kind of from trying to sort of be in this world in sense of well-being is the biggest industry, you know, the big umbrella, or sort of, and sort of from a coach and from doing the podcast and the whole thing of well-being and mental health coming into that. And I see this a lot of the time where it's like, you see a lot of people talk about, oh, we don't talk about mental health, as opposed to, well, then just talk about it. Stop saying we don't talk about it. As you say, it's like, so even what you said about the walk you did there for this year, or the opportunities, but it's the whole point of it as well. Again, going back to that, the charity, because is to, you know, to doing an event is to get the attention, to get the sort of be able to, whether it be to raise money, but the other thing is the awareness piece, to bring people out on those walk you did. There's probably people, I don't know, but who probably hadn't spoken about stuff for a long time or weren't comfortable. So as you said, it's like, if you compare the previous years where it was like the duvet day and you were almost closing off, not saying a word, versus being completely out and literally in the open, and then people having the conversation, the sense of changing the narrative is changing it entirely. Like, because it's when people, I think for myself, is when people see other people talking, it gives them permission. Oh, I can now say it.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I think that's the one. So as I say, I've been going to this community of open water swimmers in Penarth called Dawn Stalkers. And they're amazing, and they go every day at sunrise. I'm not that good, but I go as much as I can. But there's a guy there who comes, and we call him Coffee Guy. He's amazing. Peter is his name, and he's amazing. And he's all about human connection and conversation, and that's what his coffee cart does. You know, it's so much more than coffee. I mean, he makes the most amazing cookies, but it's so much more than that. It's this notion of connection, of storytelling. And I think that that's the thing. You know, I was honored by, so Big Moose contacted me, and because they do this these events called Life Stories, and they'd contacted me. I'd already done an event for them where I'd spoken about my issues with water and my mum, but they contacted me and they were like, we really want you to be our headline speaker at our next Life Stories event. And I was like, if you got the right person. Yeah, I'll come and talk my story, but headliner, really? No. And I agreed to do it, managed to get a babysitter for my little boy, and my husband came and heard me speak for the first time, which was the scariest thing ever, because it's our story, you know, talking about the pain of miscarriage. It's his story. And, you know, like when I looked to sign up for the London Marathon initially, it's the first time and the only time I will ever ask his permission for anything. But I had to ask his permission because it's sharing his story. And you know, and that's really, really hard, because I think particularly, you know, we always talk about it's good to talk, and like you say, it's good to talk about mental health. My experience from friends of mine and from people I've met through this, through people I met through the Miscarriage Association, through guys, men don't talk. Don't talk openly. It's painful. It's really painful. Talking, you know, talking about miscarriage and losing, not just losing a baby, but losing what you thought your future was going to be like. It's horrific for me. But it was also horrific for my husband, you know, and so all of that pain. But, you know, I went and spoke at this Life Story event, and it was life-changing. It was powerful. I cried, I laughed, I looked out the corner of my eye at my husband to make sure I wasn't annoying him too much. I had people afterwards who came and hugged me. And, you know, and since then, and I suppose being open and being my authentic self means I've got to be open. I'm open on social media. I'm honest. I'm who I am. And that can be hard at times. But it's meant that, you know, friends of mine, people I've known from the gym, have gone to Big Moose, and Big Moose are amazing because they provide, all their fundraising goes to providing therapy when people really urgently need it. And so I've signposted friends of mine. And I had a message just last week, just ahead of Cardiff Half Marathon, one of my friends who was running, with the message of, you don't know what you did for me, you saved my life. That's goosebumps. That's absolutely 100%. And all that was seeing something that person had posted on social media, recognizing the pain and reaching out, saying, let me help. Are you okay? And I think that power of that conversation, so going back to the whole thing about stalkers and things, the power of conversation, of not just listening to people, but really hearing them. And that power is immense. It's life-changing, you know. Mental health and suicide is absolutely horrific. It changes the lives of so many people. The ripples from that can be catastrophic. But life is beautiful. And we should forget that life is beautiful. And, you know, I couldn't help my mum. You know, that was gonna happen. You know, my mum had attempted many times, and so it was going to happen. In her name, if I can help one person, if telling my story of being vulnerable, of being scared, being vulnerable, being authentic, if one person hears that and picks up the phone and says, I need help.
Worth it.
How powerful is that?
100%. I mean, it's massively powerful, and it's a really, there's so many things in it, again, what you're saying, because you say, from what I sort of try and do myself, I'm I'm not a therapist or a counselor or anything like that, but say what I do as a coach, and I say I host a show, and then I've done that through different works and things that I've done, and try to work with different colleagues and companies I've worked with. But the interesting thing is, and it's still now, is like the majority of the audience that I get are still women. And I'm not necessarily going into as sort of deeper subjects as that. Do you know what I mean? Like, people are sharing their stories with me, but I'm not necessarily, because that's not my story. So you know what I mean? So it's not, I can only share sort of my experiences. I'm still sharing sort of everyone has these worries and doubts, but it's still fun and interesting in the sense of that you say the challenges of getting men to converse and to be open and to share, because it's even like, say, the stories you were sharing about yourself there, but because I think when I talk to people, or they can think, oh, but geez, neither my parents committed suicide, or we haven't experienced, say, something, a miscarriage. So they think, well, mine's not that bad. So they kind of dismiss their own sort of worries or traumas, whatever because they think, well, it's not that bad. So this whole thing of, I've just got to suck it up. But it's like,
But I think that's the thing, it's all relative, isn't it?
It's 100%.
Do you know what I mean? It's all relative,
100%.
Because I think when you're facing something which is traumatic or is difficult, that is the worst thing that you're experiencing.
Yeah.
It's absolutely the worst thing that you're experiencing. And nobody should take that away from you. And nobody should say, well, that's nothing. No one should minimize that and say, that's nothing. I've been through this. I don't share my stories to go, oh, look at me.
No.
What I've been through is the worst. It's just saying, I've experienced this,
Yeah.
And I suppose I've reconciled that I'm living the life with the cards that I've been dealt.
Yeah.
Experience, if I hadn't have experienced those miscarriages, would I have run a marathon? Would I have embarked on this journey of change? Probably not. Would I have still been really, really unhappy in my skin? Probably yes. If I hadn't have lost my mum in the way that I did, I know that I would never have come to Cardiff.
Yeah.
Because I would have stayed at home to look after my mum.
Yeah.
And many people, we all make choices because of what's going on in our life. And it can be anything. I was just talking to one of my friends this morning before doing this with you, and he's gone through a cancer journey. And I was talking to him because today is a National Stoma Day, and he's raising awareness for stomas because he had bowel cancer and he had an operation. He's now got a stoma. But I was talking to him because there was one point in his journey that we met in a coffee shop, and he was like, Kerry, I can't do this. I'm not going to have the operation. I can't live my life with a stoma. I'll just live for how long the cancer gives me. And what do you say to that? He'd almost reconciled himself to that.
Yeah.
But my God, I'm so glad he changed his mind. He got support he needed, and he changed his mind, and he's here and stuff. But I was talking to him, and I posed to him your question of what is important to you, because I was like, such a massive question. And he said, I don't think I can answer that in one sentence, but one word: life.
Yeah.
And that's it. We all, as human beings, we're all on this planet, all embarking on our own life. We've all got our own stories. We all experience trauma, upset, distress in all different ways. And when we're going through that, it's the worst thing that we're going through. But it also gives us empathy and feeling for others. It allows, and I think if we can be more open to talking, to sharing, to just feeling, of being in that moment and holding somebody, recognizing that, things could massively change, really could change. I had this experience in April this year, which again is one of these things I never thought was going to happen, but something which has really stayed with me, really, really powerful. So around the time of London, I came across this documentary on Netflix called Skid Row Marathon.
Okay.
And I watched this documentary and I got obsessed with this documentary. I watched it loads of times. And then we were in lockdown, and I was like, I'm going to email this judge. I'm going to email this judge, and I'm going to email the documentary maker and just tell them what a profound effect that this documentary has had on me. And I did. And this judge replied, and he said to me, if you're ever in LA, you've got to come and run with us. So anyway, carrying on with my life, every now and again I watch this documentary and I tell loads of other people about it. I was like, you've got to watch this. It's about the power of running and what it can do for people. and for people, homeless people living in Skid Row. Well, this year we went on holiday and we went on a cruise, and we were gonna finish our cruise in Los Angeles.
Nice.
So there was only one thing I had on my
Yeah.
mind that I was going to go and do in Los Angeles. So I emailed the judge and I said, I'm coming. So I got up this one morning, really, really early, said goodbye to my husband, and I was scared. I was going to Skid Row all on my own.
Yeah, yeah.
And I went to Skid Row, and I was in this Uber going down Skid Row, seeing all these tents by the side of the road. I was petrified.
Yeah.
Absolutely petrified. I got there. I saw the judge. I spoke to him, gave him a hug, saw all these runners. And then we started running. Of course, they're all fast runners.
Yeah.
I was running on my own in Skid Row. But then some of them came back and ran with me. And then two of them ran me in, and they were all clapping me. And there was this guy who was over 6 foot called Derek. And I always remember Derek, this black guy called Derek. And he just gave me this massive hug. He's like, Gary, thank you for coming and running with us. Thank you for seeing us.
Yeah.
And that's the power.
Yes.
Seeing somebody.
Yeah.
These people have the most amazing stories.
Mm.
You know, Derek, he's gone through addiction, living on the streets, to having his own property,
Yeah.
to going abroad with this judge and running a marathon.
Yeah.
How powerful is that?
Yeah.
And that, again, running is the vehicle.
Yeah.
Running is the vehicle. It gives these people something to live for.
Mm.
It transforms their lives. And I've got one of their running tops, and they've got this quote on the back which says, transforming lives one run at a time.
Yeah.
Whether you run, whether you walk, whether you do whatever you do in life can transform, but just one thing at a time. And that's so powerful.
Yeah. But I think it just, that sort of story, and it's amazing. I'm probably getting goosebumps from it, for you sharing me that story with me, because again, to me, it can demonstrates two things. One, in a sense of when you do one thing, the fact of momentum, the fact that, and doing something that scares you can propel you to do something else that scares you and keeps going up the way. And so when because I'm still thinking earlier when you said about going the first time into the gym and like, you know, how terrified, and then you've done marathons, you've done running, but now you're in this place. You told you, oh, whatever, you're in LA, yeah, come run with us. And you said, yeah, I'll do it. And then you're literally in the Uber. And I'm sure, as you say, you're like, oh, what am I doing?
Yeah.
But so the two things is, one, when you get into that cycle of sort of doing things that scare you or pushing yourself, it encourages you to do more. But it doesn't mean that you're less afraid. Do you know what I mean? Because this is what people get confusing. They think, oh, now Kerry's got it all together. Kerry's never going to be worried again. That's not the point.
Oh no, and I always do things which scare me. So I've got a fairly new tattoo on my arm, which is one of my favorite quotes, okay, which is feel the fear and do it anyway.
Yeah.
And that is what it's about. So so after lockdown, I signed up. I wanted to do Swim Serpentine in London, and I wanted to do it for my mum.
Yeah.
And I signed up, and I was supposed to do it the year of the anniversary, the 25th anniversary. Now that's massive for me, because I didn't just sign up for the 1 mile. I signed up for the 2 mile open water swim. Okay. Now I said to you, I've always been a swimmer. I know that I can swim, but the fear of it grips me, because I know how powerful water can be. And I know that water can take lives. Yeah. Because it took the most important person from me. But I wanted to do it. I really wanted to do it. And then obviously the Queen's passing meant that it was the event didn't happen. So I trained for it. So I went to this open water place, really cold, because it's cold in Wales, with one of my friends, and we did the 2 miles. So I knew that I could do it, but I had a place for this year's. I've never done a proper open water swimming event with
Yeah.
other athletes around me.
Yes.
My friend who had done that other one, he'd signed up. We were in the same wave, and he was amazing. He's this person who gets me and doesn't let me slack, beasts me in the gym, pushes me all the time, knows what I can take, and just doesn't let me get away with no slacking, basically. So he was in the same wave with me. He said, right, and he's a faster swimmer than me, but he was like, I'm gonna get in with you. I'm gonna help you steady your breath. And he went, and then I'm gonna go, and you're just gonna do your thing. And you know what? That was the most scariest thing I've ever done, because I knew I could do it. I knew I could swim, but I don't want my little boy to ever be scared of water. So he doesn't know. He knows that I've lost my mum, but he doesn't know how.
Sure.
And I never show him fear of water, but I have to fight that. So, I was lining up. I had this wetsuit on. I've only ever swum a 2-mile open water once before with nobody else in the water apart from me and my friend. I had no idea what I was doing. And that moment that I stepped into that water and he was going, breathe, 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 was the scariest moment of my life. But it was also the most empowering and the most freeing moment. And I'd spoken to, I was in this Facebook group with other swimmers, and I told them my story because I hadn't, and they were like, oh my God, you're amazing. I'm like, no, I'm not amazing. I'm just like you. It's just my part of my story. I just need, if you see me, I just need a word of encouragement. I just need, and there was a couple of hairy moments in the Serpentine. I had swimmers swimming over the top of me. I had a swan trying to take off right by the side of my head. But I did it. And the first time I did the 2 miles, when I did it in Wales, I did it in over 2 hours. The other week I did it in 1 hour 51.
Nice.
And I got out of that water, and the emotion that I felt, I could have been the winner. I wasn't the winner, but I was the winner. Out of everyone there that day, I won because I'd fought the fear, I'd battled it, I'd been in the moment, I'd experienced it, I'd felt the water on my face, I felt my mum with me the whole way, and I had to fight those demons in my head telling me that I wasn't good enough, that I couldn't do it, that I was going to fail, and all of this stuff. I was fighting that with every stroke, every kick, and then I just got out the water and I was like, I've done it. And so people might go, oh, like say, oh, you've done marathons. You can't be scared. I'm scared every time I do something new.
100%.
And I push myself. I push myself to do things which are, in a way, more scary. Things I don't really want to do, because I know that life is precious. Life is beautiful. And I could miss out on so much. If I stay in my comfort zone, I would miss out on so much.
100%.
And so I'm like, and I don't want my little boy to be afraid. Like I said before, I want his first thoughts to be, I can. And because I've been that, oh, I can't. And and then I've had regrets because I haven't done things because I was scared to do them. And I'm not doing that anymore.
But I think as well, and this is again similar in I'd say experience for my sort of experience of getting into sort of sport again, and it was into sort of endurance sports, marathon, and then triathlon is kind of where I went into, and all those sorts of things. The similar in a sense to you is one of the biggest things that I wasn't expecting, or I hadn't even contemplated or thought about it when I got into these things that I was doing, was, and you said to yourself there a lot of times, is the people that you meet, the connections that you make. Because I don't know about you, but it was in my head. I was like, no, you kind of, when you're doing it as a solo event, you're training on your own the whole time. A lot of the times, or you could be with a friend. I was maybe doing it with my wife or whatever. I didn't go down the club route. I just kind of did it myself type thing, because suiting in training and work and all that sort of stuff. But then you go to these big events and then you meet people, and same because social media, you'll find them online. And I have friends from all over the world now that I've met through these things that I've done already, running, training, or now it could be coaching or the podcast. And it's almost that thing, because you forget, because you're so focused on what you're trying to do, you forget. And then you meet these, like the story of meeting that person that you'd only seen on a documentary. It's like in LA, it's like mind blow stuff.
You know what is so mind blowing about that though is that judge is now running for district attorney in Los Angeles for next year.
Wow.
So in here, I'm like, I could have run with the next district attorney of Los Angeles.
Yeah.
That's
mind blowing. Yeah.
Yeah. But you know, he will stay with me for life. Derek will stay with me for life.
Yeah.
These characters that I've met along the way, you know, I've just met some amazing, kind-hearted people along the way. And, you know, and as I think the biggest thing is the people that I've met through like Big Move.
100%.
You know, I've met these amazing people. I've gone to life stories events where I've heard these stories about these people's lives, about adversity that they've got over. I've cried with them, I've laughed with them, I've hugged them. And I think so apart from the charity, Big Moose have also got this coffee shop in Cardiff, and they've got this big thing on the wall, this like red lit up sign, which says, "Leaving the world better than you found it." And you know what? That's what we should all be about. And it can be something really small. It doesn't have to be these really big things. You know, I'm never going to be prime minister. You know, I'm never going to do these really, really big things. But those little things that I've done, the people that I've met along the way, the stories that I've shared, that have been shared with me, it all goes about that overall aim of leaving the world better than we found it.
100%.
You know,
absolutely.
Being kind in heart, always being kind, because I think it's so true, that whole old saying of, you never know what's going on behind closed doors. We don't know what's going on in people's lives. And, you know, and I think that goes back to, you know, sometimes people think, oh, well, I can't share my story, or I can't be worried about what's happening in my life because that person's had it so much worse and things. It's all relative. We all go through things, we all experience things. But I think and I think COVID particularly taught me this in spades. You know, I work with children and young people that are experiencing massive issues with their mental health. My little boy, I got to homeschooling for a while during COVID, but I could see he was really, really struggling. So we used to call it Mrs. Mummy's School's PE session, and we used to go out every single day. And my friend Chloe from Big Moose talks about it, getting your blues and greens in, going out, seeing the blue sky, seeing the green fields and stuff. And my son's life changed by just going out, and that's how we can leave the world better than we found it. With our children, our young people, you know, I think I've always battled with my weight, and I always will. I'm on this massive journey. I've lost a lot of weight, but for me, it's not just about weight loss. It's all that whole thing around the mindset, around liking myself more, about being the best person that I can be now as well, not waiting until I've lost tons of weight, celebrating where I'm at now. But because I've struggled like that, and you know, I talk about in a way that I've got this addiction with food. You know, and there's loads of people that are addicted with loads of different things. But with food, it's so bloody hard because we need food to survive. You know, and we're brought up in a society whereby if something's good, we use food to celebrate. If something's bad, we use food to make us feel better. So, you know, we've got such a problem with like obesity in our children, obesity with our adults. And as I say, you know, I struggle with my weight. I really do. But I'm learning now about fueling my body for, you know, and celebrating and being thankful at what my body can do. But we've got all of these problems, and sometimes, you know, if we just get out more and see the blues and see the greens and set that example, you know, that's what I want to do for my little boy. You know, I want to leave the world better than I found it.
No, I love that. I love that saying. There's get your blues and greens in. I like that. It's a really
Yeah,
cool. It's a really cool saying. I may be sharing that. It's such a simple way of remembering it as well, and it makes a
absolutely.
massive difference. Like, it's hugely important. It's one of the things, actually, because as a side note, say I live in Ireland. I'm in the middle of the country, in a town near Mullingar. So, but for the previous sort of, been here, what, 3 years now. For the previous, whatever, 10 so years in Ireland, I was in Dublin, just in the suburbs of Dublin, very big state. But and I literally, so I'm now right in the middle of the countryside. So there's, on the road that I live on, sort of, it's what, just over a 2 mile long. There's only probably like 30 houses. So we're literally, there's fields all around me, so it's like there's sheep out the back, there's cattle out the front, there's, you know what I mean? And it's like I can walk up and down the road with the dogs. So even now, literally, I just literally walk out my door and I have what you just said, the blues and greens, and then I got the park across the road. But even just myself, it was like, and my wife has said that it's amazing what you tolerate, whether you don't even realize it. So we would be
Yeah,
out and about where we lived in Dublin, and it's fine. We walk around the estate and we go to the park to walk the dogs and stuff. But we didn't realize until we were living here for whatever the year or so, when you like, they say the stressful days at work and all those things that could be going on, you were like, I can just go outside.
yeah.
I can just walk. And it was, and I didn't really realize how much of a negative impact it was having until you realize what you were doing now. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And again, coming back to the sort of, not to minimize things, not to, you kind of like, don't think, oh, just because, oh, this isn't as bad as that, that's not gratitude. That's kind of, that's getting a mixed message of what really is maybe impacting you. So yeah, getting your blues and greens in is a fabulous phrase,
Yeah.
and really important.
Absolutely. And I've, as I say, and that's changed things for me. As I say, like before, with work stress and things, it would be a good
Mm,
bottle of wine. It would be, oh, I'm going to go and have a takeaway. I'm going to go and have a bar of chocolate. I'm going to feel better about myself and stuff. Whereas now it's, I'm going to go outside, lunchtime. I always make sure that I go for a little walk, just so that I'm outside getting some fresh air, the blues and the greens. I go to the gym, I make sure that I exercise and things like that, so that it, when I sleep really, really well.
mm,
Sleep is so important to us, and all of those things, and like before, like, because work stress, working really, really long hours, and that was, like I said to you, if you'd asked me this question 4 or 5 years ago, I was so career driven.
mm,
I'd work really, really long hours. I always wanted to do the best I could. I'd go in work early. So sometimes, like in the winter, I'd go in and it was dark. I'd come home and it was dark, and I wouldn't even see the outside air. I wouldn't prioritize myself. Then I would be worrying about work at night, so I wasn't sleeping properly. Whereas now, work is still really, really important to me. I'm still really, really passionate about what I do. I work with children and young people going through really tough times, and that's really, really important to me. And it always will be. But it's not everything,
mm.
and I recognize as well that my well-being is so important. My family, for my family, I don't bring any stress home with me. I go to the gym or I go for a walk outside, and I just feel so much better.
Yeah.
And I think that, like you say, we don't really appreciate that until we have it.
100%. 100%. The other thing I was like, when you said it again now, and I think I was wanted to say earlier, when you're talking about the gym, or even going to, doing running, and you said it a few times in relation to, and I had this kind of a little bit myself when I was first getting into running and triathlon. I didn't see myself as a runner or a
Oh,
triathlete. Do
100%.
you know what I mean?
A
So
100%. True story, this. It took me a whole year of running before I would run with anybody, right?
yeah.
I would wear all black, because if I'm fat and I'm wearing all black, no one can see me, right? Do you know what I mean? It's ridiculous now. So now I wear the brightest clothes, not
Yeah.
because I necessarily want people to go, oh my God, look at her, she's running, but because color makes me happy. You
Yeah.
know, now I can say that I'm a runner. Now I look at my race photos and I'm like, hell, I'm running.
Yeah.
But there's still be times I go, yeah, I'm not a real runner. Well, what does a real runner look like?
Look like, yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I would say that so many times, like, well, I don't look like a runner. It's like I said to Richard that day when I met him, well, you'll never get me in the gym.
Yeah.
Gyms are full of beautiful people. You know, no, they're full of people who work hard. They're full of people
Yes.
just like me who are really worried, who are really anxious, who think that everyone's looking and staring at them. Well, no one is, because we're all feeling the same way. We're just there to do our thing. But that's taken me a long, long way, a long
Yeah.
journey to get to that place.
100%.
You
But and I
know?
think as well, that's the point I really wanted to to get people to really listen, in the sense of the fact that as well you go into the gym, and that is because and I think it's changing. I think the perceptions of gyms, it still keeps changing, and it keep will. But it's amazing once you get in and do it, what your actual body is capable of doing. And I'd say, like, if when you're now into you're doing lifting weights, I say again, if you go back those few years, you would never have thought the person can probably do the lifting that you can
Oh,
do now.
oh, absolutely. Do you know? And I think that's the biggest thing for me, you know, and I think something's really clicked. And I was talking to Richard, my PT, just the other week about this. Something's really clicked the last 4 or 5 months, you know, and I've spoken to you as, you know, I didn't really like myself, you know, going back, you know, me and my husband had suffered multiple miscarriages, and I thought it was my fault. I thought it was my fault. I lived with that guilt for many years. You know, people would take one look at me and go, it's your weight. So I was like, I've lost my babies because of my weight. That is such a horrible thing to have to live with. My body's not doing what it's supposed to be doing. I'm supposed to be a woman, you know, we're told you have babies. You know, I couldn't do it, or I felt I couldn't do it. And so I hated myself. I would look at photos of myself, and all I would see was flaws of imperfections. I would see the fat. I would see, you know, all of these things. I would be really, really critical of myself. I'd be really, really negative of myself. And I still have to battle that, and I still have to fight that. But do you know what? I can lift weights. My body lets me lift weights. I can run. My body lets me run. And so the last 4 or 5 months, working with Richard and the people at the gym, he's changed things with me, and it's really clicked. And it's now, all it is about Kez versus Kez. And all it's about is about being better than yesterday. So if, like, so for example, last year I ran Cardiff half marathon, and I run it in 3:38. This year I did 3:27. I could have been the winner
Yeah.
because I got a personal best.
Yeah.
You know, and Richard talks to me about that, about celebrating everything. And so I celebrate. And yeah, I'll go and have a really nice meal, and I'll go and have a few drinks. But I then don't then go on this spiral of going, oh my God, well, I've really, really messed up my weight loss now, so I'm just going to go and eat all the food.
Yeah.
It's about, you know, that's what I enjoy, to celebrate. And, you know, and I let my body do that, but then I then have to get back on it, and I nourish my body and I fuel my body for what
Yeah.
exercise I'm doing. But I'm also, you know, I look at myself now and I can actually say that I'm starting to love myself. You know, I like my body. You know, I'm a badass.
Yeah.
I can leg press quite a bit for these
Yeah.
little, you
Yeah.
know, and I like it and I enjoy it. And I enjoy seeing the growth that I'm getting from what I'm doing, and the personal
100%.
growth and the feelings, those endorphins and all of that. And I would never have thought that my body would be capable of doing any of this.
Yeah.
And so I've got to celebrate that, you know, you know, and I think that that's what this journey's taught me most of all. You know, before, like, I was, you know, I was laughing with Richard because I've done Slimming World, I've done different slimming things and stuff, and I always remember that, you know, Christmas time I'd fall off the wagon, so I'd stop going because I had to get back to the weight I was, and then I could go again. And he'd be like, well, that's just ridiculous, you know. And it's the same as sometimes people that, you know, fall off the wagon in a gym. Oh, well, I got to start exercising again before I can go back to the gym. Well, no. Because it's, you know, our journeys aren't linear. It's not always
Yeah.
success. But actually, I think of failures as a success because I learn from them.
100%.
You know, I learn, I can then do better, I can then progress, you know. And, you know, if I'm off my sofa exercising, well, how is that a failure?
Yeah, absolutely. No, 100%. agree with everything you said there. You shared one earlier that you have tattooed on your arm, your quotes, and say like, so I think quotes can be really powerful and they're really applicable if you put them in the right way. So are there any other ones that are really important to you?
I think that is the main one is I say, feeling the fear and doing it anyway. But I think it's I think the main things as well is about one step at a time. And there's this picture that I sometimes put up when I'm feeling bad, and there's this quote, and then there's a picture of like a little girl with fairy wings on her back, and it says, "What if I fail? Oh, but darling, what if you fly?"
100%.
You know?
Love it. You've obviously it's been wonderful. You've shared a huge amount of different people that you obviously had connected with over the number of years and that. So who would you say have been some of the biggest influences in your life?
Oh, so I think my mum. Because I think she's absolutely made me the person who I am today. I don't think many celebrities and things like that. I think it's actual real people. I think my trainer, Richard Reese, he's got a huge part to play in my life. But I think as well, there was when I was younger, I used to work on summer camps for children with disabilities. And there was this little boy called Mickey who had Down syndrome, and he had the most wickedest sense of humour. And he was always smiling. He always saw the positive. He would always go and hug people, and he'd had the wickedest sense of humour. But the thing I always remember about him was one of the first days I went to this camp, I was feeling really good about myself. I had this bright white t-shirt on. I was young. I was like, this is going to be great. And they had pottery wheels and clay out. And so there was me with my white t-shirt, you know, helping the kids. And there was Mickey at this potter's wheel, and he made this bowl. And then he looked at his hands and he had clay on them, and he went, I was like, what's going on here? The next thing, he came running over, and I had these 2 handprints by my boobs with clay. And it was just this wicked laugh. And do you know what? That he has stayed with me forever, because he was just this mischievous character who had this zest for life. Who just taught me that being you, laughing and having a sense of humor and just embracing everything that you've got, you can have the most fun.
That's fabulous. I love that. No, absolutely love it. Kez, it's been an absolute pleasure to talk to you. It really has. I do have just one more question for you before I let you go, and that is, what's important for your future?
So the biggest thing at the moment is going to New York Marathon and just soaking it all up, experiencing it and getting over that finish line. And then it's going to be having a rest.
For sure.
But I think it has to be to continue to feel the fear and just do it anyway.
Absolutely. Kez, I say it's been an absolute pleasure to talk to you. I really appreciate it, and thank you so much for chatting to me today.
Thank you. I really enjoyed it. Thanks, James.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you for watching or listening to this episode. I really hope you enjoyed the conversation. To support the show, please subscribe on your favorite platform, share your favorite episode, get involved with your comments, and give the show a rating. If you want to learn more about what I do, you can follow me at James Dean Coaching on Facebook and Instagram, connect with me on LinkedIn, or check out my website, jamesdeancoaching.com.